The Supreme Court wraps up a term filled with controversial decisions. America's divisions keep finding new exposures. And has Toyota unlocked the secret of building a better battery? If so, the automotive world is about to flip upside down. Today is Sunday, July 9th, 2023, and this is Flashpoint. Hi, welcome to Flashpoint. Good to have you with us this morning. I had a couple of days off last week for the July 4th holiday. I hope you got a little R&R too. As a news junkie, I tried to take a little break from the information flow, but my goodness, I was stunned at the word that came from Toyota last week. In fact, I was even more stunned that it didn't seem to get a ton of attention. It sure had mine. A Toyota spokesman said the Japanese automaker is developing a solid-state battery that will have a range of almost 750 miles and would need just 10 minutes to fully charge. That can't be right, can it? Well, some have wondered when Toyota would fully jump into EVs. If this comes to pass, and the word is it will be available in 2025, Toyota would definitely move to the head of the class. We're going to talk about that with John McElroy a little bit later on this morning. But up first, the other news difficult to miss over the last week. The continuing debates and reckoning with a slew of decisions from the Supreme Court. Some argue that the court has fallen way out of step with American life. Others argue the court is only supposed to stay in step with the Constitution. Still, others believe a lot of ethical issues have stripped the court of the authority that it needs to be the final word on these vitally important issues. But at the very least, once again, the deep divides in American society are again laid bare. And that's up first today on Flashpoint. I have a friend who says that each presidential election, the only thing he thinks about as a relevant issue is Supreme Court appointments. It seemed narrow to me when he first said it years ago, but I've come to understand it. We talk politics, we live the law. And the end of the recent court session is a good time to take stock of the laws we're living. Good to have with me former Speaker of the House at the Michigan Capitol, Tom Leonard, now attorney, Tom Leonard, editorial page editor of the Detroit News, Nolan Finley, back with us again, the CEO of Focus Hope and formerly of the United States Justice Department, Portia Roberson, and from Detroit Today on WDET, Stephen Henderson. Steve, I want to start with you because this was your beat. Before you came back to Detroit, you were the beat writer for the Supreme Court for the Baltimore Sun. Mm-hmm. Give me a little bit of your read on where, I'm going to sound like a grumpy old man, but as I grew up, and for many, many years after becoming an adult, when it didn't matter who was in the White House, I felt a certain sanctity around the High Court. Is that still there?
I think it's damaged. I think we've done a lot to damage it. Beyond the decisions and how disturbing they were this time, you have a lot of other things going on there. I mean, you have the illegitimacy of at least one seat, which was stolen from one president and given to another. You have increasing questions about the relationship between justices and people who might have business before the court. And then you have these decisions which are shredding precedent, which is the one thing that is institutional stability at the court. And the reason that these things are so concerning is because this is the third branch of government, right? The first two, Congress and the president, are directly accountable to the people. This one is only indirectly accountable, and the people are appointed for life. They are expected to play by a different set of rules. And when they don't, I think the faith that we're supposed to have in the institution goes away. And the justices themselves are contributing to that. The politics around the court are contributing to that. And, it's not the place that I covered 20 years ago.
All the way back to the leak before the abortion decision,
Absolutely.
Which just never happened. Never happened. Portia, this idea, though, about established law and precedents, we do have reverence for that, and yet life changes. I'm really glad we didn't see that slavery was settled law,
right.
For example. Right. I mean, do we make too much of that? Isn't it the job of the court to continually reevaluate what they see before them.
Certainly, I think it's the part of the court. And I'll say that Stephen has been generous in saying it's been damaged. I refer to it as a hot mess at the Supreme Court at this point. The relationship between, as he mentioned, billionaires and justices reminds me of how I could not even practice before my father, even though I was an adult, did not live with him, and he certainly didn't pay or give me the kind of money that Harlan Crow has been giving to Justice Thomas and his family for the course of years that we've now seen that he's been doing so. I think the fact of the matter is, yes, we revered precedents because we knew that the changes that had happened were the right things. And what we're seeing now when people break from the precedent that has already been set is it's not because just times have changed and they want to make things better. It's sort of like they want to put some of these very restrictive laws in place that will damage groups and communities around this country. And it is, I guess, this idea of making America great again, but great again for whom? And I think it really damages the thought of now we have the first black woman sitting on the Supreme Court, and God help her that she's sitting there with some of the people she's sitting there with right now.
Tom, to this idea of precedent, on the other hand, Donald Trump ran saying, I'm going to change all this. We've got to have this happen. We've got to have this happen. And I'm going to deliver that. And that's kind of where we are, isn't it? Elections have consequences.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was going to say. In 2016, there was not one voter that went to the polls that didn't know that the Supreme Court was at stake. And yet conservatives and Republicans turned out in a greater number than liberals and Democrats did. And you look at what this court has done. I mean, overturning affirmative action. I mean, even the most recent affirmative action case nearly 20 years ago, even that court said that within 25 years, we will no longer need this and this precedent will no longer be needed. So this court is simply exercising the rule of law. And as you mentioned, Donald Trump said these were the types of justices he was going to appoint. That's what happened, and now we're seeing these decisions.
Nolan, what's your take?
Well, I mean, I think this court does have respect for the Constitution and what it says. When you look at the ruling on the student debt, for example, even when Biden put this program in place, he expressed doubts about whether he had the constitutional authority.
Yeah.
Nancy Pelosi said he didn't have it. I don't know how else you would have expected this court to rule on a president seizing appropriations power for the Congress. He just didn't have that authority. So I don't know that they're all that far out of bounds. On affirmative action, as Tom mentioned, Sandra Day O'Connor said, 25 years ago that this should be a temporary program. And the fact that it hasn't been a temporary program is not a failure of the courts. It's a failure of our government and our policies to put in place solutions that would make affirmative action necessary. We still have failing public schools. We still have too much poverty. Affirmative action is just a Band-Aid for all that. We haven't addressed the core issues.
As for the authority, though, that the court has right now, are neither of you concerned about these ethical entanglements that seem to be swelling, particularly around Clarence Thomas, but John Roberts, his wife? I mean, it was interesting that Sam Alito, it was interesting, Stephen said, these people who have business before the court. Frankly, that's all of us. So they have to, any relationship that they have that is built on receiving gifts seems to be a problem.
It is a problem, and they shouldn't, and there should be an ethical code, and they should stick to it. That doesn't change the merits of these rulings.
Agreed, 100%. I mean, as Nolan said, I mean, this is a court, many are saying it's out of touch. But again, this court essentially said the president does not have the power to appropriate money. I mean, the fact that 3 justices believe that the president should be able to unilaterally do that, despite the fact that even Nancy Pelosi said he couldn't, really is what should scare us.
Is that fair?
I think.
No, go ahead,
Stephen. No, go ahead.
For starters,
I'm going to sit back and listen.
For starters, conservatives and Republicans did not turn out in greater number than liberals and Democrats in 2016. He lost that election in the popular vote, and that matters as well when you're thinking about things like legitimacy, right? The court seat that he appointed almost immediately after he was elected was stolen from Barack Obama. There's never been a rule that you have to have your party in control of the Senate to confirm a Supreme Court justice. Now, all of a sudden, Republicans have made that the standard. The point is
Wasn't
that the line,
he exercising the Biden rule when he did that?
No, he was not exercising the Biden rule. That's not true. The other thing that's true is that the court only has the legitimacy that it can sort of conjure for itself by its own behavior. I'm sure my friends over there would not be sitting here defending any of this if it was Sonia Sotomayor vacationing with George Soros, for instance, right? People would be losing their minds if you saw liberal justices doing this. This is a different court. This is a different standard of behavior. These are things that would never have been permissible when I covered the court or before it.
No, it goes back to, this illegitimacy of some of these justices. I even think of Brett Kavanaugh, who ironically is one of the swing votes now on the U.S. Supreme Court. But the fact of the matter is that we have at least 3 justices who have very sketchy dealings when it comes to their relationship with people who are going to appear before the court. And it's fascinating to me, someone who's worked at the Justice Department, all the rules that are in place around just actually working at the Justice Department, and how often I had to tell colleagues that worked at the White House that we were separate from and had to remain separate from what the White House wanted. It wasn't simply what the White House wanted that the Justice Department could do. And yet we see these Supreme Court justices who are very much revered in a way, and it is the highest court in the land. We expect justices to live at a higher ethical standard or with a higher ethical standard, and yet they don't. And they don't seem to be apologetic about it whatsoever or want to do anything to change the perception that is now out there about how they operate.
Does this change your view if they don't have any problems? If you don't have problems with their decisions, though, are they right about this ethical morass?
Some of these outside issues, again, I think we could all agree that there ought to be some type of code of ethics in place. But I think to call a couple of these justices illegitimate, I think it's time to tone down the rhetoric. Every one of those justices are there constitutionally. They were
Would
nominated.
you defend Mitch McConnell's move of not allowing Merrick Garland's nomination to go forward?
I wouldn't. I would say what he did was constitutional. Folks may not agree with it, but in no way did Mitch McConnell violate the Constitution when he did not give Merrick Garland.
It's actually a pretty low standard, though, for the behavior that Congress is supposed to indulge when it comes to appointments. That had never been enforced before. And even though Joe Biden said he thought that should be the rule, that wasn't respected when he said it. And they went ahead and confirmed somebody that the outgoing president, had nominated. These are rules being made up. And look, the relationship between the two sides when it comes to these things is not governed by anything, right? There's nothing in the Constitution that says how it should happen. But the idea is that it should be fair and it should be applied equally to both sides. We have one side that has decided anything goes to make sure that they win, and they will bend the rules as many times as they can to make sure they get what they want.
We have the other side saying anytime a ruling doesn't go in our way, we were going to blow up the institution.
I haven't suggested a single thing
we
about
want
it up.
We want to pack the court. We want to extend.
I haven't said that. I haven't said
or limit the terms. That's one of the reasons the court is delegitimized, and one of the reasons.
I haven't said any of those things.
You haven't, but it's been out there.
But Joe Biden doesn't seem to be too tempted to expand.
No, I think he knows that would be just a disaster.
Can we ever envision a day again when somebody like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I believe, had 98 votes for confirmation? That just seems like a relic that I can't imagine.
Well, remember, Clarence Thomas was confirmed by a Democratic Senate.
Right.
One of the most conservative justices in history. It used to work differently, and the rules that are changing are being changed by one side. They are not being changed by the other.
And I think what we've often said is that the justices are there to follow the law. And at this point, I think what we're looking at is justices that are there to follow the politics.
But let's be
and
clear,
not
no
follow
rules
the law.
were changed. Practices were changed.
Practices.
They operated
because you weren't getting
within
your way.
the rules and the Constitution.
And that was my point. You may not agree with how they got there, but to say they're illegitimate is just wrong. Those last 3 conservative justices that were appointed, they were duly nominated by an elected president and they were confirmed by the Senate, they are there per the Constitution. They are legitimate justices.
One of the things that the court did do, Stephen, was uphold our election processes, which I think gave you some heart. But that brings us back to we now, and I know Tom cannot weigh in on this because his firm is involved with Matt DePerno's case, I guess I would say. Is that accurate? I don't want to put you.
I just say it was during my campaign. Matt DePerno publicly said that my firm was involved, so we'll leave it at that.
There we go. But it now sounds like the prosecutor in Muskegon County has sights set on a number of people who tried to flip the election in Michigan.
Yeah. I mean, this is behavior that deserves prosecutorial response. These were people who tried to steal an election and undermine the democratic process. Again, there's one side that's really busy doing that right now. There has to be an answer for it.
Agreed, Nolan?
Oh, I think they should be prosecuted. What DePerno did, we condemned him for it when he was doing it, but I would never attach him to any organized party. I think he was rogue.
He ran for chair.
He's right.
So
He's part of the Republican Party.
Got a lot of votes.
I wouldn't consider the person who won the chair.
Just because you don't like him doesn't mean that you can call him not a member of the Republican Party. He's all yours. Have at it.
He's not mine.
Thank you all very much for the conversation. We'll continue with more stunning news from Toyota this past week. This is Flashpoint at Local 4.
It's Empire Today's biggest sale, the 50-50-50 sale. 50% off carpet and flooring, 50% off padding and materials, and 50% off installation. That's right, half off your entire project. You can save thousands. Empire's 50-50-50 sale won't last long. Don't miss 50% off carpet and flooring, 50% off padding and materials, and 50% off installation.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today.
Get ready, Detroit. Gardner White will do what nobody else will. We're putting our design studio on sale for the 4th of July sale. We made a special purchase of Bernhardt living rooms, dining rooms, and bedrooms, and marked them all half off. That's 50% off Bernhardt, one of the greatest names in furniture. Plus, get 0% financing for 60 months, as low as $24 a month. And it's in stock with free same-day delivery. So now you can enjoy the best. Gardner White, the best for less.
Tim Hortons' new summer drinks are made for summer to get you rolling, keep you cool, and feeling refreshed. All day, all summer long. Try a new summer drink from Tim Hortons today. It's time for Tim's.
This is it, folks. Final question.
All right, guys, one more point to win.
Let's go. Who do you call if you've been injured in an accident?
1-800-CALL-SAM.
They got it. Yeah! That's a winner.
Call Sam. Good answer.
We know the Great Lakes make Michigan great.
$24 billion in visitor spending.
It's not just a billion-dollar business, it's where we call home and why it's so important we all do our part.
If the lakes aren't protected, all of this could go away.
From slimy creatures to straight-up slime, we look at the biggest concerns facing our Great Lakes, plus what we can do to protect them.
Protecting our Great Lakes, starting Monday on Local 4 News.
Welcome back. I have been a little stunned at the lack of talk surrounding recent word from Toyota that they are developing a new kind of electric vehicle battery that would kind of be a revolution, not just for EVs, but for automobile travel in general. Almost 750 miles of range with a 10-minute charge, maybe even less, in a solid-state battery. Much easier to build than the current lithium-ion models. Things that make you go, Good to have with me from AutoLine, the one and only John McElroy. Thanks, John. You and I spent time up on Mackinac talking about the state of the art, and this one is a little eye-popping to me, and yet it hasn't gotten a ton of attention. What's up here?
Well, it's going to get a ton of attention, Devin, and it's great to see you too, by the way, too. So look, there's a lot of work going into what they call solid-state batteries. You know, most people are familiar with lead-acid batteries in their cars. Remember, you used to have these little caps and you had to pour distilled water in them. Yeah. So there was liquid in that battery. There's liquid in today's EVs, too. but the next generation of batteries doesn't have any liquid in it, so it makes it more efficient. The electrons can travel more easily within the battery. I'm simplifying, obviously.
Yeah, no.
Battery experts are going to say I'm crazy saying it that way. Nonetheless, it's going to be much cheaper, charge faster, drive longer. Everybody's been waiting for something like this.
I was telling you earlier, Toyota has been sort of conspicuously absent. We can't really point to a whole lot of Toyota EVs. Now, they kind of changed the game a little bit with the Prius, which was a hybrid, but I've been kind of waiting for them to do something, and clearly they've been working in the space behind the scenes.
Look, Toyota's strategy was, we make all these hybrids. We're really good at it. We dominate in that. If you want to get to zero carbon usage in transportation, EVs will get us faster to that goal, and cheaper. That's Toyota's argument. I'm just regurgitating what they've said. But they blew it. I mean, EVs have caught on far faster than they ever expected. And the stunning development for them was in the first quarter of this year, globally, the Tesla Model Y was the best-selling model. And what did it knock off the top shelf? The Toyota Corolla. That went through the company like a lightning rod, and they recognized, we got to change, and we got to change fast. Now, they've been working on this solid-state battery for a number of years, but it looks like they're getting a whole lot closer to be able to take it to mass production.
You and I have been watching this space, you much more closely than I. We see announcements thrown about willy-nilly all the time about things that are sounding kind of a pipe dream that really don't quite happen. I suppose this could be one of those, but I'm not used to that out of Toyota, which I guess is why I gave it a little bit more credibility as I read it. But could they really have this by 2025?
In fact, what they've said before is they're going to have it in production in Japan in very low volume, and not in electric cars, but in hybrids in 2024, next year. And then they think they can get it to mass production around 2027. So it's going to take some years of learning to do that.
What would this do to the business in general?
Well, it'll be the game changer, Devin. Come on. I mean, it's like there's so many advantages to electric cars. They're quieter, they're smoother, they're faster. You know, I had to do an oil change the other day. Just the cost of the oil and the filter for my car was $50. Yeah. If you go to a dealer just to do an oil change now, it's about $125. So think about that. You know, 2 oil changes a year is what most people should be doing. Electric cars don't have any of that. And so there's a huge advantage to them, but they take long to charge. Maybe the range isn't what you want. Solid-state batteries solve all of that.
The time to charge has become the new thing, right? I mean, for the longest time it was range anxiety. Where can I find a charger? And now the next iteration of the protest is I got to wait. I'm behind a guy. It takes him half an hour. I got to wait for him to clear. I'm sitting here for an hour trying to get my vehicle charged.
That's right. So if, you know, my advice to people are, if you drive long distances and have to use public chargers, boy, you better be committed to wanting an EV. You're probably not going to like it. But if you can charge at home, especially with a 220 outlet, you're going to love it. You'll never go to a gas station again. You'll never get caught at a public charging station.
I tell people that to be an EV driver does require a commitment. You've got to buy into what it takes. This would change that, the solid-state battery. The other thing, though, that you were telling me on Mackinac is the development that Ford is working on right now toward not an ion battery, but an iron battery.
That's
lithium iron.
That's right.
Explain that.
So there's a lot of worry about where do you get all these materials that go into batteries, like nickel and manganese and cobalt. And cobalt, was it mined with child labor? You know, nobody wants that. Well,
all of this turf that China has sort of put a big
they control the market. They control all of that. Right.
Yes.
So there's another chemistry called iron phosphate, lithium iron phosphate. You don't need any of those materials. We got plenty of iron in the United States. We've got plenty of phosphate too. All of it can be sourced locally. So that's another chemistry that many companies are running to, and they're a lot cheaper. They charge a little bit faster. They're not as affected by the cold weather. So it solves a lot of problems. They're not as efficient, but they're still pretty efficient.
Last thing I wanted to ask you about was going back to China. We're talking, there's all this, lots of arguments over Chinese plants setting up shop in Michigan, just how far we can go with this relationship with this nation that we rely on for a lot, if you've been to Walmart lately. How do we stake out this relationship?
So many years ago, Vladimir Lenin of the Soviet Union said the capitalists will sell us the rope that we will hang them with. Well, looks to me like the communists will sell you the rope too. We want to get off our dependency of China. So what better way than to have the Chinese come help us learn how to do all this stuff as fast as possible? In fact, that should tell you a lot. The fact that the Chinese government, the communist government in China, does not want CATL to do this deal with Ford in Michigan. Ford's going to learn so much, and they're going to be able to source all the materials they need in North America. It's the fastest way to get off Chinese dependency is get the Chinese to help us to do it.
Fascinating take on it. John, as always, good to have you on the program. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
We'll wrap things up for Flashpoint right after this.
Only Gardner White guarantees to have every Stearns & Foster in stock with free same-day delivery. Save up to $400. Plus 0% for 60 months as low as $1 a day. Plus free gifts. The 4th of July mattress sale at Gardner White.
When you get proven quality at lower than low prices with Kroger brand products, it feels like you're winning. Find the proven quality you love at lower than low prices with Kroger brand products. Only at Kroger. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
1-800-Lawyers is a Michigan law firm. Auto injury, denied Social Security, disability, slip and fall. We know the laws. We know the courts. And we have won millions of dollars for our clients. Call 1-800-Lawyers today.
The Resource and Crisis Center at Oakland Community Health Network is one of our best community services. Oakland County residents can call the Resource and Crisis Helpline 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Give us a call today. We're here when you need us and ready to respond when you ask.
During the Gardner White July 4th mattress sale, choose your comfort, choose your brand. Like Sealy, Serta Perfect Sleeper, and Beauty Rest. Your choice, just $9.99. Plus, get a free power base with every mattress. This is why we're Detroit's #1 mattress store. Only at Gardner White.
In order to deal with the problems of today, we must be more innovative.
There's obviously better solutions out there that we need to start exploring.
Rents are going up and up and up and up.
A great Florida reef is under attack.
When great value is out, it's a problem.
Solutionaries, the creative thinkers and doers working to make the world a better place. Subscribe at youtube.com/solutionaries.
We are all out of time. I'm so glad you were with us. Meet the Press is coming up next. Hope you have a great week. We'll see you next time for Flashpoint.